Welcome everyone to the October 3rd, 2011 Vernon Selectboard meeting. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with the public participation piece. Hearing none, we'll move forward to the minutes from September 19th, 2011.
I had a couple of things.
Okay.
I had on page 2, down where it says Chairman's remarks, and Howe announced the passing of Frank Johnson Sr. A long time, I said lifelong. And then again,
You remember that?
well, I know that because I kept saying that in my head, lifelong, lifelong. But you know, I may have said long time, but I'm sure I said
okay.
life. And on page 6, where it said approximate cost is $1,000, it should be per month.
Okay. And I have one change, actually. On the bottom of page 5 and the beginning of page 6, there is a duplicate motion. So the one on bottom of page 5 should be stricken.
Well.
Page 5.
Yeah, at the bottom, and it says a motion was made. Top of page 6 has pending litigation, but then that same
same
motion,
Yes.
yeah, it's
Okay.
a duplicate.
So page 5 motion goes.
So then the executive session ended should be gone as well.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah. On page 6 again.
There was a grammatical error in here, which I'm not going to quibble over. It just struck me. But other than that, I was fine with the content.
Me too.
Where was the grammatical one?
I can't find it now. Something really, really stupid. It just,
Okay.
no worries. No, just
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I'm trying to stall so Mr. Ball and Mr. Miller can get here.
Are they done?
They're supposed to be.
Oh, I see one typo. There's a typo on
The
under
outage
Tracy
doesn't start
Brown.
until next week. Right?
No, they started already. They
People's
started this week.
United.
I thought it
Oh,
started
yeah.
the 11th. Mike said he's working 12-hour days.
Well, maybe that's when he starts with the official order starts next week.
But they just resumed power back up to 100%
I know there's a
yesterday.
lot of stuff that gets prepared before it actually shut down.
I really should learn more. So was that it?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Miss Howe?
I move that we accept or approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of September 19th, 2011 as corrected. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I have a quick remark I would like to make. Basically, this past weekend, specifically Saturday, was the Connecticut River Watershed Council's Source to Sea cleanup, which I had heard about on the radio, but I never really put 2 and 2 together until Saturday when I got a call from a Vernon resident asking us if the town of Vernon was participating, from which I said, no, we weren't, and they indicated, yeah, they called Brattleboro, and there wasn't anybody in Brattleboro participating either. But they had managed to get their own group of small volunteers together, and they worked on cleaning up down by the dam area. So basically, I would like to thank Mary Ann Deere and her group of volunteers for taking the initiative to do that. And essentially, the entire project comprised of not just Vernon, but the whole Connecticut River. Almost 1,400 volunteers who picked up about 50-plus tons of trash. So it was somewhat successful. And with the flooding and everything, there's a lot of trash out there. But I told Ms. Deere that I would be interested to maybe next year see if we could come up with some sort of small town-wide effort to assist in that process. But I just wanted to thank them for doing that. Moving on to department head committee reports. I believe the personnel matter would be Mike?
Yes. If the board pleases, I would rather wait till Mike and Bobby were here.
Are they coming tonight? There's some question as to...
I'm not sure.
I haven't heard from any, no,
I didn't hear they weren't.
I did not hear
I
that
have
either.
not heard that they weren't either.
And normally Bobby will call and say, you know, I'm not coming, tell him, but he did not.
Well, we can most certainly go out of order.
I make a motion, we go out of order and take the treasurer's report.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go out of order and take the treasurer's report. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We had a big warrant tonight.
Great.
It includes all of the organizational payments and all the appropriations for town meeting. So it's big. And I also have a bill I'm going to ask that we review and make a payment on.
That's not it.
This is for the grant.
Yes, this is what I'm requesting.
Are these eyewash stations for the highway garage?
No, we
No.
had one for the town office building and for the rec. That one I believe is the town office. Yeah, that's our bill from Bill Gilbert. We just got it.
This is the one you want. The okay to?
That's the quote that we received from that company. That was included in the grant application, that particular company's quote. Yes, I did.
You move that so you don't have to sit so quietly. I'm sorry.
So do we need a motion for Sally to pay this bill?
Well, I want to talk about it because it's,
Okay.
I want to talk about the grant and what actually
Sounds good.
we were awarded.
What was the vehicle that got $2,000 worth of repairs?
I don't know, I'd have to look at the bill and,
Oh, okay.
I'm not familiar with all, because they call them M whatever, and I'm not sure which. Probably the Tahoe, but I'm not sure. It may say
Tahoe.
it right on there. Could be.
Isn't that brand new vehicle?
Yeah.
That was too.
Well, it might not be then. I'm not sure. I'd have to,
I'll let you know when I get to it.
there's 88, I did 88 checks, so there's about 100 bills.
You want that?
No, just looking back at that other payroll one. my finger in my eye. It really hurts.
You can't leave.
No, I won't.
David's been busy.
He sure has. Between the cleanup and we had the FEMA guy come Wednesday and he did all the documentation right then. It's really getting right on it.
We had to have the granite post put back into the Tyler. They had been taken out years ago and we didn't get the extension put in. So that's what this is. Jason did it.
It's on the Crown Vic.
Huh?
Oh, you got it? Now, which of those vehicles is the oldest vehicle? Now, weren't we gonna get rid of that before it started coming into all of these expensive repairs?
Yeah, it's supposed to go down to two
Two
vehicles.
cruisers.
Oh, yep.
I don't know, what was...
But I don't know when
Yeah, when is
yeah, it just said end of life, I think. But I don't know when that,
Well,
what does that mean?
Keep sinking
Put
$2,000
$2,000 into it, yeah,
It's gonna live
that's,
forever.
that would be for, yeah.
I'll have one of the liaisons speak to that.
I'm seeing somebody walking over here, so it must be a ghost or something. I'm kidding. Nope, no ghost.
Are you having fun over there?
I think so.
She's seeing things now. It's a little- These are top payments.
Wait a minute.
Nice way to kind of go in 6, 8 months at least. Not that the games of much interest anymore. That's all we used to do years ago. My goodness, David's been busy.
Did I tell you what happened about my wood stove cracked down the middle? All I had it roaring. I had just started it and I got it really hot and cracked it right down the middle. Sat there for a while wondering, should I save anything? What should I save first? I thought, save the fabric. Save the fabric. That bad. I'm just thinking of it. Why, I don't know.
How'd you get it out?
What, the fabric?
No, the stove.
My nephew came down and pulled it out. Not that night. I let it go down. It wasn't that, I
Oh.
just watched to make sure. It was just the top. It was one of those old Defiants. It has the separate top that screws onto it, so.
I've been cold enough to...
That was a couple weeks ago. Besides I'm old, I can't kill it easy.
At least you've used that excuse, alright?
I know, I have many times. Wow. You're right, it is a big one, isn't it?
We need to get a new purple bowl. What do you think? Coming out of
It's just either a good time to bring that up, but
Just
I'll make a donation.
It's on the agenda. I could've sworn I put it on there. Yeah, it's on there. That's through here.
two needs her signature.
So did you get this?
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Uh-huh, it was delivered to me. I did not, I'll tell you, I slid it, and first line, I brought it to Katrina. I didn't even look at
Because
it.
Sandy's not here, or?
Probably. I don't know if Sandy was here at the time. She did come in today later, but it was brought, there were two things brought to me, and we didn't know, and we often get those, so, but I'm the one that opened it and gave it to Katrina.
Sounds good.
So how's Genny doing? Do you have you heard or no?
I don't know. He got his finger in the wood splitter caught, and I believe it crushed a part of it. So a week ago, well, over a week ago, Sunday night, not the second.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. O'Donnell?
I move that we approve and pay the following: payroll 38S, $11,286.94, and payroll 39S, $10,935.42, and accounts payable 8SG, $1,715,867.09.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept and pay warrants payroll 38S in the amount of $11,286.94, payroll 39S in the amount of $10,935.42, and account payable 8SG in the amount of $1,715,867.09. Is there any discussion?
That was even hard to say.
It was.
Sounds like town meeting.
Yes.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do you want to go over this bill before we...
Well, I have another bill. The bill that I
Okay.
need approval for is actually a Comcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
And I received a call on Thursday from Comcast that we had some bills that were overdue, and it's fire department. But I would like to pay it. It didn't get in on time, but Tiffany did deliver it today, and I got the fax after I completed the warrant on Friday. And I believe that maybe the issue is the address. I'm not really sure, but I would like to be able to pay it before we have another charge.
Is this his personal post office?
That is not, but I'm not sure that mail would be opened. I'm just not sure. So until I really can speak to the chief, I'd like to get that paid.
Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious it's a Comcast bill.
It is, but
Comes in
I'm
with
not.
Comcast all over it.
Yeah. The bottom left is the, and I'm not, until I speak to him, I don't really know.
This is a monthly bill?
No, that's 2 months. It's
Okay.
2 months overdue.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to do the due diligence and find out exactly what this is for and why it's going to this address before you pay it. right?
I'm going to speak to the chief.
And why it's late.
Wow.
Hello.
Hi, Mike.
Mr. Ball,
Obviously, the title hasn't been changed, and so
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if other pieces went, and there's a reason behind it.
is there any late fee associated with
Yeah,
that?
there's a...
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's taxes.
Well, it was 208, that was the two bills, or usually they're 104 a month, so there is some interest.
See if Mike knows what that address is.
Do you know what that address is? Is that his personal?
Yeah.
It's not
They
his
have to-
personal.
Huh?
His personal's 444.
Then he got one for basically the fire station separately, because it's 443.
Yes, that's a box that has been paid for on behalf of the fire department.
Okay.
Well, it's late, and I'm just not sure if because the name on it is not the current chief, there might have been an issue with opening it. I don't know.
But we got to pay it because it's already overdue.
And I'll have a talk with the chief about it.
When did it get submitted to you?
Thursday after the warrant had been completed. Well, he submitted it, Tiffany brought it in this morning, or this afternoon, but the faxed copies, I received a call about it.
It's supposed to be a turnover, there's going to be a transition, and, you know, this was all supposed to be under control.
So we'll pay it. You talk to him.
Give me a
Do you
motion.
want me to
Mr. Chairman?
send forward you the information? that
Please
I
do.
did?
Yes.
Why would you have to have a special motion on that versus all of the rest of it?
This
Right.
is
This
separate.
is
Done all
separate.
the
This
rest
is
of
like
them.
a fast check. It'll go on the next warrant, but she needs to be able to write a fast check. Correct, Sally?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Howe?
I move that we allow Sally to write a fast check to Comcast in the amount of $213.06.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to allow Sally to write a fast check to Comcast in the amount of $213.06. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like to, then we can talk about the passive grant next. As you are aware, I do believe I sent you an email that our grant was partially approved. We received funding for 2 AEDs, but it was specified, because they had to be listed separately in the application, they chose the town office and the highway garage as the two recipients of the AEDs, and also the flammable liquids cabinet. I would like to also be able to purchase the AED for the van.
Yeah.
And that's really my question, is whether you want to allow that or not.
Technically, the van is the highway garage.
Well, I had 3 separate because the highway department was going to have one of their own.
Okay, so
So
they differentiated
They
between the
did.
two.
They did. And the grant from Reynolds, actually, I was worried because he told me that he couldn't, the quote that we received the last time, this is the same amount. He had told me he could not promise that, but it is that, so we're fortunate in that way. But we can use the safety money, we have $1,500 in the safety money to be able to purchase that AED for the van. So I just need approval too to go ahead and send Mike an email, Mike Willis from Reynolds and Son, that we're ready to purchase the AEDs.
Were there any other things on the safety committee's wish list? I know.
Not for this coming year, because we had planned that we may have to do this. We used the money last year for the eye wash stations. We worked it all out when the equipment grant became, it was offered, and Wade had told us about the grant that we should apply. We knew at that time that we were going to have to change some things, and we had a discussion on the safety committee about that. And everybody agreed that the eye wash stations would be a good thing to do with the 2011 money, and then the 11-12 to do the AEDs once we got word whether we received the grant or not.
Okay, so this is the entire safety money for 2012.
$1,500, so it's a little less. This would be a little less. We have $125 left.
Right now is that it's part of the job description for the van drivers to be, AED certified, CPR AED. But one of the things is that it would, by having this down at Town Hall, it basically would change the requirement that all of the road crew is also AED qualified. And I'm not sure if that's the case now.
It ran out last year. Well, mine did.
So that would be part, if we're going to spend the money to put it down there, we're going to have to get a commitment that they're going to be maintaining their certification, or requiring us they maintain their certifications. Just like we're going to have people that are going to be certified at, all the rest of the places. Because that's one of the commitments
Part of
that
it
has
is the
to be
training.
made.
Yes.
Because we don't just buy AEDs.
Mhm.
It has to be coming underneath the district medical advisor. It's a piece of electronic equipment that is a EMS, and that means that it has to come through from the medical advisor or another doctor, a physician. You can't we as a town just can't buy them. So that there are requirements that have to go along with these, and the fact is that with public access defibrillation, it's people are qualified, they basically are trained in these, and they're maintained because the pads only have like either 18-month or 24-month lifetime. So there's also, when you get these and you put them into place, you also have to commit that you're going to maintain the pads and the battery. And the battery is pretty expensive. It's not cheap, but the battery's got a 5-year life. So just so that everybody's aware that, the preventive maintenance requirements with it, as well as the training that goes along with it.
And I'm assuming the safety committee has already discussed those other
Yeah, Reynolds and Son will provide the training.
at a cost.
No, it's part of the package.
So, what's the motion that you need?
To approve.
Okay this? To approve
We've
this?
already got the grant, but we need another one for the bus.
Okay, so move.
I would just move the purchase of 3 AEDs and maybe list each, the van, the highway through the grant, and the town office through the grant.
And the funding would be the grant, and what
The
else?
safety committee line item.
And that'll
safety
take care of that?
recommendations, Yeah.
Because the other thing too is that we had put in for the grant was to replace the 3 AEDs that came off the engines and the fire trucks that went into went out into like my vehicle and to 2 other people's vehicles, because in a lot of cases that I respond directly, not necessarily have to go all the way down to the station to grab equipment and then go back. So it was felt that to put the AEDs into the ones into the vehicles of the people that respond the majority of the time. And so one of the things we had for this grant was we had 3 more AEDs to replace the ones that are on the trucks. So we can either do this at a later date, or do we basically want to go out and replace those?
Where's the funding coming from? Is that part of the...
We had talked about before in a meeting was to take it out of the ambulance fund to do that.
Which is what we did at town meeting last year.
Right, and the balance of these, the match, because the grant pays half
Right.
for 2, that will come out of the ambulance service. That was what we had discussed.
That's exactly right. I remember that.
So, Mike, what you're saying, you already have 3 AEDs now, right?
We have 6 AEDs. 3 are on the first responders that basically respond the majority of the time.
And do you want to replace all 3 of those? Well, do you want to replace all the ones you have now all at once, or else do one each year, so that way, because you said the batteries only have a 5-year life span, so that way it's kind of revolving.
Well, you have to replace it, the pads and the batteries no matter what. The battery, when you say is that we'd be, recycling them, the AED costs
Town office?
$13.75, and the batteries are, I'm going to guess, like $250. So every 5 years. So that, like I had said, is to replace it, because if you have a truck that's out and on a call, and it's with people that basically are out there, and somebody goes down, that not have an AED on the truck would be, it just delays defibrillation, and
Yep.
if you don't defibrillate within 8 minutes, basically, you're doing CPR in less than 4, and defibrillate in less than 8 is the American Heart Association recommendations. Pretty quickly, the probabilities are, against you that you're going to be revived.
Where are the other 3?
I believe it's on Engine 1, Rescue 1, and Tanker 1. Excuse me, Engine 3, Tanker 1, and Rescue 1.
So those are just going to be shuffled out of service, or are they going to go somewhere else as well?
No, they stay on those the trucks. So that the Engine 3, Tanker 1, Rescue 1 all have AEDs on them now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Brush 1, Engine 1, and I'm missing something. Actually, probably have only 2. Engine 3 and Rescue 1 have AEDs. And we need 3 to replace for Engine 1, Brush 1, and Tanker 1. Those are the 3 we need.
So we're combining these with the ones that Sally's getting through the safety committee, correct? So there'll be a total of 6?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
But we had talked about that before, and the grant had
The grant
6
has 2.
AEDs on the original
Right.
grant,
Mhm.
hoping
Yep,
that
the third
that
one
was
is
going to be
that's what I was-
covered and be covered 50/50, and the remaining amount was going to come under out from the ambulance fund.
Yes, I remember that.
And the key here is just to remind the board is that we asked for 6, we're getting 2, we're getting the third one, and whether or not do we get 3 more to get 1 more to get 2 more, for the fire department, and or do you just want to say let's deal with the grant now and have a written recommendation from the chief at a later date for the replacement of the 3, whether or not the 3 AEDs are going to be replaced.
Is it realistic that those AEDs would be needed? I mean, do all of those trucks go out all the time, or do certain ones go out a certain time?
There are different missions for each.
Mm-hmm.
You can have, brush will go out for brush fires and wildland fires and whatnot, and they could be supported by one of the other engines, or not. It could go out by itself. The tanker will go out to different communities for support, for mutual aid support, or it could basically go out with one of the other engines.
So I guess where I was going was, and I think you answered it. It is conceivable that only 1 truck would go out instead of 2, so there wouldn't be an AED on the scene.
Right.
I think it's needed.
So, if we're going to go that way, it would be to, just to fund the unfunded portion using the ambulance, what is it called, the ambulance service fund?
Medical ambulance service.
Medical ambulance service fund.
You had a question?
You have 6 now, Mike?
We have 5.
You have 5.
5, because I was overinflating the number of trucks we had. We've got a tanker, we've got 2 engines, a rescue, and a brush. So.
And how old are those AEDs now?
The AEDs they're all biphasic, which is the latest. They're all pediatric capable with the pediatric pads. So every single one has got 2 adult pads and a set of pediatric pads on it, and they're maybe 3 years old.
Do you ever have 1 truck that goes out all the time? I mean, isn't it customary for you send 1 truck out and then you need other ones go out there?
It sometimes, depending on what it is. I mean, it could be a pool fill, it could be a It could be a structural fire. If it's a structural fire, typically you'll get engine 3 and the tanker together. I mean, if you want to talk probabilities, the probabilities is that the brush and the tanker will nearly always have another support vehicle with them, pretty much most of the time. I've been on a call where it's just the brush. So we took for a down power line, we took just the brush truck to a down power line on somebody's property.
But you had your vehicle.
And I had my vehicle, and I happened to be there. And then there's another time where the brush truck went just by itself, and my vehicle was there. Typically, because of some of the other stuff that I'm involved with, I typically like to have my vehicle with me, just because if I have to respond to something else, I tend to take mine with me. But I'm not always in town, you know. So my vehicle, like when I was out of town, I still haven't got it back yet. My AED went to the assistant chief. So when I was out of town on vacation, then I gave my AED to the assistant chief, so he had it. So if he responded, he'd have the AED with him. So, but you're like you're saying is that if you have the front line, like the tanker, engine 3, and the rescue, and 3 other ones. So we go out one more, that would probably be better than, you know, we increase the probabilities that there's going to be an AED.
So, if I just understood your last statement, we'd only purchase 2 more at this time. One for the van and another one for the fire department.
No,
Oh.
we replaced
1,
by
2,
4.
the 3 there. Don't
Oh,
forget
I'm
Sally's
sorry,
3.
the other 2. The
Those
other
are the
2.
3
Well, we
important
have-
ones.
we
These
have
are the
the-
extras.
The town hall, the garage.
Those are covered by grant, though.
2
We're
of
also
them
talking
are.
about how many we're buying right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the highway, the van, and the town offices are the grant ones.
So you only want to add one additional
the
one
grant
for the
ones.
fire department.
I meant 2 of the grants.
And the grant
One
is
of the
for
extra
now.
ones is the
Right.
van.
Yeah.
So we would really be paying for 3, if we bought one for the fire department right now, we'd be buying 3 out of the medical and ambulance service fund.
One that we don't have a grant for, one for the fire department, and the other 2, you're only getting a half a drip.
Right.
So you
Right.
put it together, it's 3.
It's 3, yeah, you're
Which
right.
is a total of $4,125.
Yep. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct? Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Ball,
I move that we buy 4 AEDs from Reynolds and Sons as described in order number 1124613. The funding will be from the safety money, the 2011-2012 safety money, the grant, as well as the remaining amount be out of the medical and ambulance service fund.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we purchase 4 AEDs from Reynolds and Son based on the quotation number 1124613. The funds coming from our grant.
What was the name of the grant, Sally?
It was the VLCT Passive Equipment Grant.
Okay, the VLCT Passive Equipment Grant, which will cover the expense of 2 of those AEDs at 50%. Those would go to the town hall and the fire, or the town hall
And the town garage.
The town garage.
We would purchase a 3rd for the town bus.
Yes, I've
And
lost
a
it.
4th one for the fire department.
Yeah.
Funding for those additional 2 and the other 50% would come from the medical and ambulance fund. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That was a bigger mouthful than the $1 million warrant.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I think I'll go next to budget worksheets, and I'm just really looking for direction. We had a department head meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the question of the department heads was, do you know yet what the board is looking for? And I said, no, but the budget worksheets for them to work on are ready. So I'm looking for direction so that we can start on that. I'm not sure when you all are ready to begin the budget process, but
I thought
Thought we had that, yeah, I thought we were going to have it in by the 31st of October, was it not? Was it the end of October?
Well, the other thing we need to keep in mind is that 2 of our members will be working 12-hour days.
Yes, I know.
So,
The thing that we've held, how many years now?
the level fund,
Yeah,
quite a few.
is that what I'm seeing is that we may, I think we really need to challenge them to be smart about it, but at the same time, to fund it at what it needs to be funded at. And
Yeah.
I have a few concerns, and one is our computer concerns, because we are going to be a year late, but we're going to have to budget for them in that budget. And also, we had talked about a line item for the TRTW policy, so that's going to add something in there, just to let you know. Those are just right off the top of my head. And I think that some departments can do it well, and others are going to struggle with trying to level fund.
and I think it's, we've had them level fund at the same time as with the, rate of inflation was fairly good last year. Have you heard any figures? I haven't seen any figures. And you're going to be looking at figures really soon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can tell you that our fund balance was not healthy this last year. We are having departments want to carry over funds. And aside from the highway garage, there's that statutory. We don't need to be doing that, and perhaps it would be better to have the departments use their money rather than carry it over. Within the year, that time is there to use that money. Carrying over is really depleting anything.
Yeah, I
that
would
we have
say
left.
that doesn't help at all.
Yeah. And our revenue over our expenses is now not.
But if they've level funded, then, and they still have money
and they're
left
still
over,
Some
buzzing
do.
and higher.
Sometimes, though, to be fair, is that if somebody they were going to, under their budget, they were going to buy something, and they didn't have to buy it, then I could see that them coming back and saying, listen, let's be honest here, and that the fact is that we're going to spend this much, it didn't meet capital, the capital plan amount, we didn't have to spend it this year, but because of this, we're going to have to spend it next year. Can we carry it over and take care of it? That makes sense.
Well, it does, but, I don't see a decrease in the budget to compensate for that carryover either. So they're getting the budget, plus they're getting the carryover. So, that's not really clear to a taxpayer,
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
what's going on if you're carrying it over from one year and you're still asking for the same amount of money.
Well, it's also hard to justify in the fact that if you level fund it, and then you're going to ask for more the next year, but you're going to have some that carry over
Right,
from the
that's what
previous
I'm
year.
saying.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
I think
But I
we're
said
saying
a
the
little
same
bit more
thing, it's just in
simpler.
our own way.
I've never seen a government budget that
Me
wasn't
neither.
fluffed.
No. Yeah, you got to fluff it, because I was thinking, there
Somewhat,
was...
you have to
Right.
protect your department, but
Because I came in here one day and Sally's office was boiling hot, I mean, you got to have money there in case he didn't obviously have to do anything, real drastic, but what if we needed a new air conditioner or something like that? I mean, we got to plan for a little bit of something extra. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the buildings,
I definitely
the rec
agree.
area, this
Yes,
building,
yep.
There does
I
have to
agree.
be some sort of contingency.
Yes.
We did away with miscellaneous. I think that's a mistake personally, because we do have, and a small miscellaneous is good for items that just don't fit anywhere.
Mm.
But at the same time, is that with a capital plan, is that let's just pick on Mike.
Well, if we fluff it a little bit, then they're not going to come back at the end of the year and ask for it, because we're going to say, no, now, we gave you fluff this time.
that's why a miscellaneous budget is better. I'd rather
Yes.
see a miscellaneous
Would you?
budget than a
Yes, me
fluff
too.
budget.
Me too.
Add-
Well, I
I
meant,
like miscellaneous.
I used the word, for lack of a better one, I couldn't think off the top of my head.
But the air conditioner is for this building will probably run over $10,000.
So then that could come out of the capital plan.
It could come out of the capital plan, but what I'd rather see
Yeah,
is the
but-
fact is that if, let's just say, how old is the air conditioner in this building?
Before my time,
And so what I'd like to see is,
13, 14 years.
let's just say it was made, let's just say it was built in 1980 for grins. And at 1980, and it has a manufacturer's date on it, and they come back and they say, well, yeah, they only have 30-year operating. Well, that should already be in the capital plan, right?
Well,
To
that's
be able to be
true, but,
replaced.
you know, parts and this and that, and hiring people to come in
To a
and,
degree, because we actually had the compressor going one out here, and they wanted to replace the whole unit, and I looked at the exterior of it, it didn't need replacing, so we got away with about half of that, so you're talking around $3,700 that cost. It's difficult to say, but I do understand you can try to estimate or predict when a unit will go down, and it's kind of condescending, because you can put the money in there, and if you're not using it, then I find there's questions about that too. Well, why is it sitting here, we're not using it, becomes a town meeting.
exactly.
Yeah.
I've thought to in the past where I'm here with the capital emergency fund, where if that figure was lowered to cover some of these items, at the board's discretion, also the town's discretion, I thought would probably be a better idea.
Hmm.
But, that didn't seem to fly at town meeting either. Because it puts you in a gray area constantly, because if that money's sitting there, taxpayers put it aside and you're not using it, where, you know, you could build a...
Well, we could go with the miscellaneous line item, back to that, you know, whatever that was, and that could be the little bit.
Either way,
If I remember right, before miscellaneous items, it seemed like there was some pretty high amounts in those miscellaneous figures. And people were using that miscellaneous, say they, I don't know, were supposed to buy new chairs for the office, and that was the line item, but they were using it from miscellaneous before they were using that. There was some things like that before, but those miscellaneous, if you have a miscellaneous problem, you shouldn't have thousands in a miscellaneous.
No, and I don't think
And
we
they were
did.
pretty
Mary
high.
Ann.
No, 'cause I don't
never had that
remember
much.
any-
I think it was more of the seminar, the travel stuff that was really high.
Yes.
The
Well, that too.
miscellaneous itself wasn't too bad, and I can look at history, I can go pretty far back
I mean, I
and
just-
review.
I mean, I could give a specific example, but I don't
I thought it
know.
was like 500 to
I don't think that's
1,000 maybe.
necessary.
But isn't there a line item, if something costs over $10,000, that's set aside, like an emergency fund or something?
Yeah, that's the emergency capital reserve.
Yep.
And we did try at town meeting lowering that amount, because sometimes things come up and they're $8,000
Yes.
or they're $5,000, and we were stuck with, you gotta take it out of your budget because we can't use it if it's less than
Right.
$10,000.
Was that
If it's
an
not
article?
$1,000, you can't use that fund.
Right.
So you have
Sally?
to find it within your budget.
Sorry,
That's
was
what-
that an article to lower that?
It was.
I think we should try it again.
Well, I was wondering about that too, and I think the worry of the taxpayer was, well, you're just gonna use it for everything, so there
Yeah,
has
but
to
we-
be a campaign that this,
Well-
this is not for that, but we do have items, we do have things that come up. We have buildings,
Yep.
even in this building, we had issues from the police department, we did have that issue with the air conditioner, and Dampier came several days, it kept going out.
Yep.
Each trip was a cost, it just became burdensome for yours.
I think that if you lowered the capital plan, so it's co-measured, so if it's 10,000, right, capital plan, emergency capital plan. So you turned around and said it was 8,000 and 8,000, or 7,000 and 7,000, so that they were co-measured with each other. So, I mean, that would, to me, it makes sense, instead of 10,000 and 7,000.
I think if you built a budget, and you only had your expenses in that budget, but yet you showed another, and I don't think we really would want to even call it miscellaneous, because that's too broad. I think if you went with a emergency repair fund that was under the capital, lower than the capital fund, and explained to people, this is for, a $3,000 repair here, or a $2,000, but it'd have to be very specific.
That could be under ours, too.
It
Yes,
could
it can
be.
be.
It could be. But it would have to be, and if people saw the department budgets came down because that fluff money was now put in that fund, Now, if you have travel expenses, you have things like that, that has to go within your department budget. This budget is strictly for emergency needs, and everybody understands that because we all have homes. Our roof leaks, or the gutters go, or something. People understand that, and it is different than a capital fund. I mean, even though we have the emergency capital fund, that's big repairs. This is for the everyday small thing that happened, and if we explained it well to people, and they saw that there was a definite decrease in department budgets, they'd understand that. But people, rightfully so, get really nervous when they start to see big expenditures going here, there, and everywhere else, and they really can't understand why that money's being spent. But the only thing that should come out of that budget would be more of an emergency repair type of thing, and not your everyday department budgets and travel, conferences. All of that's part of your department. That's not part of emergency repairs.
I think you got a good idea there. With put a line item in our budget that's for emergency only, and then
and it would have to have the approval of the select board to be spent.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, what about like a match type? They gotta come up with 50% of it out of their budget.
But if the point is to get the fluff out of budgets,
right,
by doing something like that, department heads would still have to build their budgets looking for what might happen. Where if you completely take that fear out of their budgets, and they only have to build their budget on employees and labor and all those costs that you normally have within a department, travel, conferences, all of that stuff is all part of your department budget, and you don't have to worry about if your tire gets flat and you need a $500 truck tire for the dump truck, or something like that. That could come out of another fund that was held by the select board and only approved by the select board. I think that the taxpayers would feel a lot more comfortable with that.
So in the case of that compressor going, it was half of my budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first
I
year.
remember that was.
And then you're scrambling all year long, so that
That's
takes
right.
the pressure off of you as a department head.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
lets the taxpayer understand exactly what's going on with these budgets, and every budget, if we did that, every budget would come down, because every
Yeah.
budget has fluff in it, preparing for events like that.
Yep.
I think that's
I
a good
agree.
idea, and
I
I
think
think
it's an
that
excellent
maybe
idea.
that's something that we can bring to the department heads in order to facilitate starting these budget worksheets.
Should we have a meeting?
I hope when we do our
of the
budgets, we
board
remember.
and
I think
the
we
department
should,
heads so that we
personally.
can
This is going to
talk about
require,
that?
this is going to require more working togetherness,
Mhm.
I should say.
Do you want the finance committee to work on this?
What,
To come up with,
for theirs, for the
Maybe
capital
not at the
plan?
initial meeting, but I think
Oh, no.
the finance committee, in terms of looking long-term, what could be required, like your compressor is 20 years old and it may need to go, or, I mean, you guys, I think you guys have a good grasp on where each piece of, or each asset the town has is at in its life.
and I'm sure, I know that we can figure out where some funding money
You
to
know.
start that fund could come from.
Well, it wouldn't be. It would be-
Without raising any money.
No.
It would be a budgeted item. In other words, we would put, say, $20,000 in a line item for emergency
But there's
expenses.
places you could take that 20,000 from without raising it at town meeting.
I'm not saying raising it at town meeting.
No.
No, I
I'm
know
saying that every
I'm
department
saying-
has
or-
fluff in it, preparing for this stuff, so their budgets could come down, and that extra money could go into this. But I also have concerns that sometimes you get, this is a process that's going to take a while with the select board working with the department heads, and sometimes you get too many hands and it just gets more confusing. I think just,
Yeah, for right now,
my
it'd be
opinion would
us.
be for right now,
Yeah.
we should just work with the department heads. And then you're right, long-term, the finance committee does have a good handle on what's out there and what needs to be repaired and when it needs to be repaired, and that could be part of their, number one, I don't want to overburden the finance committee because they're a volunteer committee also, but, right now, they're going to start working on the capital plan, and that's going to consume a lot of their time from now until town meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Okay.
So if we could come up at some point with a date and then I can coordinate department heads to be here.
How long are you in for, the middle of November?
No, beginning, like November 1st or 2nd.
Do you want nights or days?
Days.
So why don't we go with, I hate that
We
thing,
have to
that
be there every
3.
day.
Let me change that. The calendar.
Oh,
I can't see no into November.
That she was talking about the video. Seems like you just changed that, and obviously it was a couple months ago that you did it.
Right off to the October, never mind September.
So maybe the 7th?
You're still on.
Is that
right?
too late? I mean, don't they have to start building their budget?
Yes, they have to start.
Well,
Why
I
would
think
we-
the department heads can,
Yeah, they can
Have it-
start, and they
and I can
can.
give them the general idea that,
I'm sorry.
of what's going
The
on.
goal is to take the fluff out and put
To
it,
try to think of the bigger items
Mhm.
out of the budget and only concentrate on.
And put it in this one line item.
You know,
I think it makes budgeting much simpler for them too, because you know what your labor cost is, you know how much an hour you're paying,
Right.
you know how many employees you have. You know, you take that extra burden out of their budget. It makes it an easier process for them.
You know, the thing too is that we could probably put it into a memo to just say, hey, listen, this is our idea moving forward. And then we want to sit down with you and talk about it, to answer questions. But just so that you can start thinking about it, these are, and just like you said, simplify it to what you basically know. Day in and day out, you know what you're going to have. And based on history, it's the things that come up that basically hammer you in your budget that you don't have any control over. And we want to come up with a new way to fund this and make so we basically take some of the fluff out of the budget, give us a budget that's realistic, but take the fluff out of it, and then we'll work up with
Special time.
what we
Right.
think is the amount that we need to put aside under the select board in order to basically to fund those issues.
How about,
Class afterwards.
do we want to do it during a regular select board meeting? We could do it on the 7th, if that's the case. Otherwise, have a, like on the 14th, have another meeting just for working with budget.
we're going to send the memo out. Should we solicit the feedback from the department heads when they think they could be ready to do this?
I would just say, you have to be having it done by then.
Yeah, I think
because,
the 3rd, I think a month is
yeah,
not too bad.
So
I mean,
the
there are
7th.
some things that have to wait, but they could get, I think, a good healthy start on it and have
yeah.
it really be pretty much. What do you think, Mike? Your
I think it's
department head?
doable.
You're saying they should come to us with their budget on the 7th? Each department head?
I don't think
or-
a completed
No.
budget, but a move towards eliminating some of the unknowns out of their budget.
And then based on history, is that, based on history, what are the things that have bit them as department heads, and as far as amounts, what they would recommend? Because you turn around and you say, as well, we have had historically, you know, with a certain amount of error that's built in there, is that we would feel comfortable, like for the garage, we'd feel comfortable with 20,000 being put in there. I'm just throwing out a number. I'm not saying that's the actual number. But
David knows what tires are on his
Right.
vehicle. He knows how the vehicles are.
That's exactly right.
He can. No one can predict exactly what's going to
Right.
happen in the next year with each piece of equipment, but he knows how that equipment's been maintained, and and I'm sure Mike's the same way. I mean, you know the equipment in here. You know what you're concerned about breaking down and what you're not, and you can figure out. Okay, if I had 2 breakdowns a year, this would be what, It doesn't do any good to go to this way of budgeting if we're not budgeting enough in this emergency fund
Oh,
to
I
cover
know.
problems if they happen.
Exactly.
Right.
But I think that
Exactly.
they have a good handle on things.
Now, will they be presenting it to us themselves? You used to do that years ago, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, but we're not going to see a completed budget.
No,
No, but we need to speak to them.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
So that we can,
Yeah, because
We
like
have
I
to-
said,
we
we
don't
need
have
to.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to explain this.
that's right, when we don't
And
have.
this is going to
that's
be.
right.
This is going to need a lot of
Yep,
cooperation amongst us and the departments.
absolutely.
My question is, would you rather have Katrina send a memo on behalf of the board? That way you have your,
Yeah, and then that way Sally's not being.
well, that way you have exactly what, and it comes from the board and makes sense.
So can you do that this week?
Now, I'm still confused about the 7th.
Yeah, is that when we're going to,
I thought we were going to have a meeting with the department heads and explain to them what we were looking for. We're just going to leave that up to Katrina's
We can do
memo.
that. No, we can do that.
no, we definitely
Yeah,
could
I
do
think
that
we could
before
do that at the
the
next
7th.
meeting.
Right, but I don't think we should do that at night, because they have to come out enough as it is. We should do it during the day when they're at work.
Go to, the liaisons go to them then.
Okay, we can do it that way.
Well, when is that?
Yeah, it would probably be different for each liaison,
I'm
wouldn't you
doing
think?
mine tomorrow.
I was going to say I'll have mine done by the end of the week.
We know that. I'll get a hold of David tomorrow.
You don't you're an elected official. You don't have a liaison.
But I have a budget, so I need one, don't I?
No.
I mean, I need to
No.
talk to someone
No.
about mine, no?
You have
Okay.
official responsibility for your budget.
All right.
If you want to talk, we can talk. Do you want to talk?
Any one of us would be happy to be your liaison if you would like, Sally.
I'm
but
feeling, ostracized.
You feel left out.
I bet you could talk to any other department head. They said they wish they didn't have a liaison.
All right, so it's going to be held, the liaisons are going to speak with the department heads about this after Katrina gets the memo out.
You better hurry up.
Okay, since we should meet
Yes,
somebody
if
tomorrow.
someone's going
No,
to.
I said I would call him to make,
I need to.
I'll call him tomorrow, David.
Before the
Make an appointment.
outage starts.
Who is the fire department's liaison? Because I know Lenny used to be, but no one ever told me I was.
I-
You are everything that Lenny was last year. We elected you while you were over in either Hawaii or down in,
I didn't go to Hawaii last year. I went to Aruba.
okay, that's where.
Don't go to
Make
No,
it right.
that single people that go to Aruba. I'm okay. I'm there. I'm old. I'm in at 10.
Repair to the Crown Vic.
What was that?
There's a $2,000
I
repair to the
wasn't
Crown
aware of
Vic.
that.
Can you ask her?
Okay, because when I asked you guys, you said that I was Seth and
And the
elderly.
yes.
The seniors. So I haven't done an evaluation with the fire department. Number one, I think it's difficult for us to do because he's a new chief anyway. Number two, I just forgot what I was going to say for number two. It was in my mind.
There's the expectations, like that for, I know that I had put down some expectations for, when I go over with Mary Beth, as far as what, how I think that some of her weaknesses, where her strengths are, some of her weaknesses are, run it past her to make sure that, you get buy-in, they're not just something I'm missing, but then bring that back and then let the rest of the...
I know how to do the evaluation. Mine's all
No,
done.
no, but I'm
I
saying
think
is
you
that
guys are
there's
setting me up because you
goals.
knew I was going to be the first one done, so now you're letting me know the fire department needs to
I'm
be done.
done.
I was done last week.
I was going to say is that, but even if with Mike, Todd being new, is that, that whole goal.
There's still, yeah.
The goals and expectations so that he knows what he's looking for, what we're looking for like next year, and
Okay.
how he can improve. And it shouldn't be coming from Bobby or I.
Absolutely not.
That's right.
I have one more budget question, and that would be salaries. Who's going to do that? Are the department heads going to, or is there going to be word from the board about?
Well, remember the policy we set forth?
Yes, I do.
And
For
who's...
adjustments.
Right.
And I do have that already.
Okay.
But I don't know about COLA or anything like that, and usually I do them if you ask me to, and if there's a percentage or it's not
Well,
an
you-
increase or whatever.
No, but you, by the policy, you go out, you take a look at that website that's in the policy to determine what the recommendation to see whether or not we're going to adjust the grid.
Right.
But we need to make sure that the ability to award that, we might not necessarily do it, but with this whole personnel evaluation thing, is that we have the ability to make that award.
Yes, and I do want to say that we do have 15,000 and change left from the grade adjustments that we did not use, and I don't know if it might be a good idea to hang on to that for that.
How did we not use it?
Because we didn't do all of them. There was money, but it was not.
Not everybody needed it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was it was not all used. So we do have that, which would help. Or we turn it back, and that's going to be a question for us when we get ready for town meeting, whether we're going to put an article in to return that money, or we may feel we need to use it. And
It was a special article for a specific purpose,
for grade adjustment.
for grade adjustments. If we don't use it for that, we really need to turn it
Oh,
back.
I thought it was,
Yeah, it would have to be for grade adjustments.
It has to
And
Yeah.
and we do have some of those step adjustments, so that's my question.
But
So you're
those,
saying this year there'll be step adjustments, so should we use the carryover
Right.
from last
Should
year?
we use-
The fluff?
Well, it's not, it wasn't budgetary, it was an appropriation, so that's just a
no
question.
matter what,
we
it's,
can
even if we
have.
turn it back and we do the steps like we're
It's
supposed to
still
be
gonna,
doing,
Still,
yeah,
yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
come out.
it makes it, I think it makes it cleaner, because those were specifically for a purpose that were raised over 2 years. We did the grade adjustments for that period of time, like we said we were going to.
Mhm.
They're done. And, you know, this is a grade adjustment in accordance with the contract, the union contract.
Well, not just that, that's PD.
Right.
But we also have our policy, the 5-year step policy.
Mhm.
That's my question.
yeah, we do have people going into that, over that 5 years.
You know, there's movements on the step.
Movements on the steps.
Was that all part of that budget to begin
I,
with?
I think that money,
It was, some of it was. There were a few that weren't. And I don't know if they're going to be, but they weren't, and it should be looked at.
yes, because we had one that went,
To be very careful of using money that was voted on and appropriated for one thing and not being
I'd
used
like
for
to
the
just
other, so we really
give
have
it
to be,
back.
yeah, we
Give it
really
back,
would have
yeah.
to look at that
And it
very
makes it
carefully.
cleaner.
it wasn't,
And then we'd have we'd raise money to do whatever we needed to do, or it would be put into clearly into each of the department heads' budgets so that it would fund that.
We can do that.
And that's, the grade adjustments were specifically because we had this process and we said, and had highlighted it to the voters on the process we were using for the personnel the personnel policy for the setting, the grid up in the first place, right? So we did the grid, we had Harry do all this work for us, and we kept saying, and we had this work going on, and we need to fund it, and this is the work. Well, that work got done, right?
Not all of Harry's recommendations were followed, though.
Right, but
No.
we completed the process.
Mhm.
So anything that's left over theoretically should go back.
Well, that's what we can do.
And then we start fresh with the new budgets on what needs to be changed.
Yeah, the IBPO is not an issue for me. It's cut and dry.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so what do you want me
do
to
we,
do about
do we,
salaries?
do we have a
Just
list
look
of the
at-
people that are going to be,
I have done a list. I haven't
Can you,
Yeah.
disseminated that.
go to the website and see if and what that adjustment would be?
I will. I'm not sure it's out yet.
Okay. B, can you send us a list of who falls under the category of they're going to reach that step?
Yes.
And then we can talk about it at the next meeting on the 17th. Will that work?
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, Katrina is comprising an email to the employees. The liaisons will speak to each employee about the
Department.
content.
Department heads.
Department. And the content of that letter and what our goal is for this upcoming budget, and then they can begin the budget process knowing that the select board budget will try and take some of the unknown out of their budget so they can concentrate specifically on known expenses.
Are you going to bump that letter to Mike for, okay.
Okay. Thank you. Next one is,
You're
I'm
really
just
a
getting-
troublemaker tonight, you know that, don't you?
yes.
I'm getting a little antsy about the workman's, obviously, I keep sending you emails about it, the occupational therapy site, or wherever we're going to go with that.
Did I see a couple of payments to somebody?
No. You saw some
Those were physicals.
physicals.
Okay.
And I know that at that meeting that we had with Mr. Nickerson, there was some talk about a no, maybe in place that we could, and I'm just not sure who's going to do that and how that's going to work, but we really need to move forward with it.
Do we need a site or a physician
Yes,
who is able to do?
to see our employees at that first report of injury.
That's fair.
Do we have do you have someone in mind?
I don't.
No.
I think, Mike, you did, right?
Well,
Was it
I was
something?
relying upon, because what ended up happening with Entergy, and in fact going through, is that they had stepped through a number of different people in the area, and they kept finding good and bad things about each of the different individuals or the groups involved, and they moved over, and I think it was Keene Occupational Health, and that's who Entergy has a contract with now, and based on what Wayne's experience was, it was like, okay, we could rebuild this wheel, or we could just, go and start talking with them and say, what would this be for the
Yes.
town? And,
And who would be the representative to do that? Sally, would you call them?
I'd rather stay in Brattleboro.
or we can,
Do we have a Brattleboro occupational?
yeah, at BMH.
Oh, then why don't we,
Does it go through occupational health, or is it actually a physician that does it?
It can be a physician, too. You can appoint a physician.
well, I have one I would
Yeah,
suggest
but-
not to. A lot of people.
I have a doctor I absolutely adore, and I mean, I don't know if their office does that stuff, but I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them. I hate making people go over to Keene. We've got a wonderful hospital here, and we should be utilizing it.
The thing about the ER, based on my personal experience with the ER is not about occupational health. There's certain things that if you turn around and somebody gets injured and they come in, they'll go with the gold standard, and they'll basically prescribe whether or not that the person, if they needed a little bit of painkiller, but they'll go over what OSHA basically says is the threshold. So instead of working with the organization, because what we want to do is we want to have a physician who is skilled in occupational health and OSHA and VOSHA requirements. And as far as when, because it makes a big difference to us financially and to VLCT that if we go to somebody who is not skilled in occupational health issues and what the limits are, they can easily go over time and time again. That's why when somebody goes to the ER, that the supervisor now is required from across the street to go with them to make sure is that they talk with them and say, hey, listen, well, I really didn't need to prescribe them this analgesic, but I thought it would probably be better for them to have this, and they prescribed 800 milligrams. Well, bang, it's an OSHA recordable, right? And if it didn't have to go to that, in the fact is that they got 500 milligrams of the same analgesic, that it doesn't become an OSHA recordable. So there's benefits to us as an employer to make sure that the individuals or the group we go with are skilled in really occupational health issues. So you want care.
I understand all that, Mike, but we're talking about a completely different ballgame when we're talking about town employees and a facility the size of across the street. I just think that, my opinion and is just going to be to stay home.
Katrina, do you know who Brattleboro uses?
How about if a doctor's an osteopath, were they probably versed in occupational health?
I don't know.
Why can't we just call Brattleboro Occupational Health then? If they have one,
Well,
and
the
go
other
with
thing-
them.
the
That's
other thing was we could go
a
out-
conglomeration of doctors, am I correct?
We could also have a spec and put out a request for bid and put it out for the local doctors and just advertise.
That might be a good way. And you limit who you're going to interview and
And then we also say is that these are the issues that we really want. It's people that have, because you're right, so an individual doctor might have the experience as far as occupational health issues, and that would be great. And the thing that we have to make sure that people understand, especially the people in the viewing audience, is that if somebody gets hurt, we're not saying we're not going to call an ambulance. You call an ambulance, you get the emergency care that's commensurate. We're talking about the follow-up work that is done to make sure that that individual gets the care that they need, the long-term care that they need, but also to make sure that we work with us, Sally, and VLCT, so that we don't get stuck paying bills that we shouldn't be paying.
So are we at the conclusion that we will send an RFP out or a spec out to?
I cannot do an RFP. I've never done one. I've never had any reason to. So if someone can do one for
Your
me.
liaison could help you with that.
I don't have one.
Being that Mike Ball is your liaison, he could help
Yes, Mike
you.
might be my liaison. Yeah, because if you could do it, I can send it out. I have no problem
I'm going to
with
be
that.
spending a lot of time in the next few days over with Wayne, and I can talk with him about this and take a look at some of the documents that they had put together. And if I can basically take something that they, with the guidelines as far as what we're looking for, and put that in, and I can run that past you, and you can send it over to VLCT and see what they say. Because they may have something like, and you could ask them
I
that.
can ask them that.
I was
Whether
just
or
going to
not.
say, my suggestion would be to ask VLCT if they probably have one already written.
They may. And they might even have a recommendation for passive on the different people to use for occupational health issues. So
We'll do that.
Okay, so Sally will do that, you'll talk to Wayne.
we'll do it in
And I'll
parallel.
be in touch with you, Michael.
Okay.
You're an elected official.
Liaison,
I'm not
Michael.
your official liaison. I just,
You're going to be sorry now.
she was sorry a long time ago.
All right, let's see. Department head credit card use. That did not come from me, but.
It came from the listers, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, the auditors.
Yeah, I've got the memo.
We got a letter that they were requesting to send a memo out because requisitions were coming back with no explanation as to what the expenses were. Some of them just included stock numbers, which didn't explain anything. Additionally, which isn't in the memo, they expressed a concern that some department heads are still using personal credit cards.
I think that one who was not a department head any longer did.
Is this a problem, or was it a one-time thing?
For me, it isn't. I think it was a one-time thing. It's not something that has occurred since.
I mean, the credit card policy strictly forbids the use of personal credit cards unless there's some sort of prior authorization or an emergency situation. And if it's not a problem, then I won't pursue it. But if it's going to be a problem, then we need to
And I
do
think
something.
I think the auditors, they certainly have a right to request this, and we should do this for them. On behalf of my office, though, we do attach every invoice, and I know for a fact that Cindy does research the numbers if we don't have an explanation. I would like to say, though, and I think maybe we need a memo also from you in this, or from me, that we need to continue to use the cover sheets. Some of the department heads don't use them, and we did vote those in. They're an explanation of what things are, and Seth Dio, for one, uses them for every purchase, so he always has an explanation. Not everybody does, so I think we do need to
Is that
push
your
that.
idea?
No, it's the one, I'm one of the ones that haven't.
Yeah, so we,
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
The idea was that when someone in the future looks at an invoice or looks at
Yes.
something, they know what it could be. So I would that has been a little bit of an issue for us because we have to look things up. But as far as the credit cards go, we haven't really had, I
Okay.
haven't had any problems, but the auditors
Do you get your
obviously
receipts and all that?
We do.
Yeah.
do. So, but I think if this is what they want to see, then they want to see it. And
Then should we send that memo out? Have Katrina send a memo out saying that?
please use your backup sheets, and then I will push that in the office if we're going to start getting invoices without them. I'll just say, the board has asked that we continue using these, and
Yeah.
it's an explanation. And, we do get from the highway, too. Oftentimes, we'll get a bill, and it will say for DGB we have no idea what it is. So we either call David or look it up, and we usually write it, but it is not necessarily explained, so,
But everybody has the cover sheets, and it's...
yes.
They
And if they
decide that.
don't, we have,
Okay.
in
And it's not that, it's going to take 30 seconds more to do that, make everyone's lives easier.
And it's only for invoices that you can't look at
Yep.
and see right away what they're for. So it's not a big deal.
And that's the only reason that was on there.
Okay. Lastly, I do have the insurance, and I think that may require an executive session. So I would request an executive session on a personnel matter.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Howe?
I move that we go into executive session with Town Treasurer Sally Brassor on a personnel matter, the disclosure of which at this time might be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved.
We moved and seconded to go into executive session with Treasurer Sally Brassor on a personnel matter. The disclosure of it this time may be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
We went into executive session at 7:55. Came out, 8 o'clock, no action taken. Yeah, there's the red button.
Oh, yeah.
Or the red light was on the TV.
I didn't realize I was short.
No, I know.
Yeah, the other thing is just the valuation.
Oops.
I just have
Okay.
something to throw out about that. really
See where I
quickly.
lost
And
my
I
little
think
thing?
we should have a conversation
I don't-
just
I don't
about
really
what
need
to
it.
do.
Didn't want
When
to hang
will
it,
that-
hurt myself.
No, I really do. No,
Cause-
we need
cause
your
myself
options, though, or
pain,
your
you know.
advice, and any kind of insight.
Bricks.
Well,
Afraid?
Patio
We'll
bricks.
talk.
Wham.
We went into executive session at 7:55, came out at 8:12, no action taken. Sally?
Okay, just the last thing very quickly, and it isn't on the agenda, I apologize, but the valuation question of whether we want to do it every 1 or 2 years, I'm throwing out to you that perhaps in the times where it's volatile, we should go, use their advice and do a yearly, but when times are good, just sort of gauge it that way.
But when are they not
Not
volatile?
really get into a 1 or 2 year, but each year take a look at it and see if we feel we really need one. Is that something that I can do with them and say we really don't want to make a firm decision and go with a particular?
What is the cost of a yearly one?
Well, they can be quite expensive, $5,000 to $6,000.
Okay.
And it comes out of of the assets, but, if we're going to do it every
Yeah.
year, our assets are
We're
going
going to
to
pay
So,
for it.
Exactly.
no matter what.
right, and so, we can take a look at it also. They're going to do the 2010, because I could not find
Did
the
you
2010.
see my email?
Yes, and I responded, and this is how I responded. I did not find a 2010 either. So they're going to have to do
Did you see the
that.
attachment?
Oh, no. Yes, I did, yeah, that funding that we had, yeah.
What does
But,
it
we
cost for
can
every
take
2
a look
years?
at it.
Is it 10,000?
No, it's the same. They do the same work, and
Oh,
they
yes, of
use
course.
what
Yep.
they do is use the yearly account statement. So,
They're going to do a 2010, they're going to turn around and do a 2011, right? It's going to be, and then we're going to see how far we're off. And then why don't we just say, is it based on how we're doing? And if we're not that far off, then
that's what I'm
we
thinking.
could do it like every 2 years.
That,
I agree.
Is that, okay, that's what I'm going to let them know then. Okay, I think that does it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
All right.
Yes, thanks.
Mike, yours is a personnel matter, so can we deal with the public discussion first?
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to the Tyler Cemetery fence. We met last week with a group of people, and we came up with a plan where we would get an estimate from a certain company who's already came down and viewed everything, and the board was kind of concerned and was worried about what the cost of that estimate would be. The Gassets have provided me with a cost of that estimate, and I believe I sent it all to you.
You did, but I don't have it.
Basically, my feeling towards this is the new estimate is right in line with the previous estimates we got before for what appears to be a much more detailed job. And
I had to kill it because it was, when I was on vacation, it was killing my inbox because of the size of it. It was a 3 megabyte file.
Yeah, it was 3 JPEGs.
Wow.
That's why. That's not the real estimate. I couldn't print the JPEG, so I just printed the totals
And I
on the
didn't
back.
print mine at all, so sorry.
So that's the grand total. And
And one
based
of the
on the
bids was-
fact that is in line with the other bids, and additionally, if we give them the go-ahead to do it tonight, we can get the work done prior to winter falling. As long as it doesn't fall within the next month, we should be okay. Now, I know there was a little bit of email activity amongst the Finance Committee this weekend, wondering, why we didn't consider their bid, but Mary Lynn answered that, very eloquently in that the actual capital item required it to be a picket fence.
Well, I think also, too, we had information when we dealt with the issue, then the Finance Committee did also. The gentleman had come in and talked about the gravestones and the concern about putting a fence too close to, so, we had information the Finance Committee didn't have to work on, and I hope the two of you will pass that on when you have your Finance Committee.
So we
Thank
did
you.
appreciate what you guys did, and it was considered.
And I think you addressed that.
So what is the pleasure of the board?
I move that we get going.
I
We
move
award
that we-
the,
Wayside Pet.
yeah, no, I'm trying to think.
Oh.
We reward the contract. What's the tougher word I was trying to think of? To Wayside Fence for a total of $13,700.
Second?
The only thing I would have liked to have seen was that the specification in accordance with the policy is reviewed by the board before it had gone out, but given to everything that went on,
Time-wise.
yeah.
Yes.
And I have every confidence that,
Should we
Dale's
waive
makes
the
a
bid
good idea.
policy first?
Yes.
okay,
So-
I make a motion that we waive the bid policy so we can deal with this.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to waive the bid policy and award the Tyler Cemetery fence project to
Wayside Fence.
Wayside Fencing for the amount listed in this contract.
$13,700.
$13,700 with an initial down payment of $8,000. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you for all your help, everyone.
Thank you. A lot of work.
I always get nervous when
Just to
people
let
show
you
up
know.
with notebooks to a meeting.
Picket
20,000,
fence.
so it's
No,
way-
no,
It's gonna
we
take
we have
notes. This is
50.
serious business.
Well, we still need to consider the painting piece of it.
The Wayside, the down payment check, do I go through Sally?
Yeah, but now what do we do, because we didn't just approve an $8,000 check to be cut with Sally, and Sally's not here?
Well, we can do that, and then Katrina can let her know.
Okay, we can just make the motion to
Motion,
fast,
yep.
what do you- fast check, is that what you call it?
Yep.
To cut a fast check for $8,000 to Wayside Fence.
I'll let Sally know,
Second.
when I call them, they'll have to bring their insurance information down in order to
Mhm.
pick up the check.
Yep.
If they've done work, for the town, they may already have.
They may have one on
Maybe
file.
on
Well,
file.
it's the new fiscal year, so they've got to redo it because of the new fiscal year.
But it's been moved and seconded to allow Sally to cut a fast check for $8,000 for a down payment to Wayside Fence, providing that they provide proper documentation. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right, we will go back to Mr. Coughlin. You have a personnel matter you would like to discuss?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
What time?
Executive session.
And I try to get it
Mr.
all
Chair?
in there.
Ms. O'Donnell?
I move that we go into executive session with Mike Coughlin on a personnel matter, the disclosure of which at this time might be detrimental to the town and/or individuals involved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into an executive session with Mike Coughlin on a personnel matter. The disclosure of at this time may be detrimental to the town and/or the individuals involved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Went in at 8:22.
Trina can show it over.
What am I supposed to do with these?
I don't know, hold on to them, I guess. You're the big man.
Sound is still on.
Oh. No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, we went into executive session at 8:22, came out at 8:35, no action taken. Mike, I received an email this week from a group who was using the town offices to do something. And they opened the window to get some fresh air, and they noticed that there was like mold and stuff on the inside of one of these things. And they were concerned about A, not being able to get fresh air, but B, if they left the windows open, would they be breathing in the spores of that? I mean,
There is mold in there due to the moisture. I do spray them.
There's
with
always
an
been
agent,
mold in
and it does kill the mold, but it's been so constant.
because of the weather.
You can't eliminate it,
Okay.
and these are problematic. Anyway, Mike, we have been from the start. They're not really used for venting.
All right,
Yeah.
but you're on top of it, you've been monitoring it, and
Yes,
you're
it's in
applying.
every one of them, yes.
That's all I need to know.
Always has been from as long as I can remember.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very, very much,
Okay,
Mike.
thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, does anyone have anything else?
I thought I did, I'm not
Thank you,
sure.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. O'Donnell?
I would like to have a discussion about doing up an ordinance requiring a permit for protests. I think that there's just been so much going on in town, and people are concerned about safety. I think we need to know where people are, what they're doing, and I don't think that you have to get a permit in Brattleboro.
Right, we have a parade ordinance.
Then are they getting one all the time?
There's no teeth to it.
Well,
And
then
one of
let's
the things
send-
Mary Beth had asked me, because we had been talking about that, and she'd like to see in the ordinance it be revised so that it basically is cleaned up a little bit and some teeth to it, like a $500 fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where I was going to go next. You know, the problem is, it's one thing for people to come in and have their freedom to free speech, but it's quite another thing to come in and cause damage in the town and be a nuisance to the neighbors and screaming and yelling late into the night. It's not fair to the people that live in this town. So I think I would like for us, maybe next meeting, as soon as we can, to take a look at the ordinance and maybe talk with the town attorney, and let's put some strength into the ordinance so that Mary Beth or the Vernon Police have some power if people aren't listening to what they're told.
If the board so desires, I can speak with Richard tomorrow and give him a copy of the parade permit and get his opinions on how to put some bite to it, add financial penalties, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I had spoken with her and I said, well, you know, what about the reimbursement ordinance? And the fact is that if somebody didn't get a parade permit and it basically then they got arrested and then the processing and whatnot, she says, I can't get reimbursed for that. That's my job. Under state statute, she believes that it's not okay. But with an ordinance that basically said is that, you know, that have the bite to that, that's okay.
And our time and money is being spent on frivolous things, and it was It was ridiculous, the behavior of some of those people 2 weeks ago, and it was very unfair to the people who lived all around there who had to get up and go to work the next day. I know some of the people that were there probably don't know what it's like to get up and go to work the next day, but it was very unfair for those people.
It was
They were
nasty,
loud,
too.
they were
Yes.
disrespectful, they were nasty, and Vernon residents have had enough.
I had one of the people in that area saying that they had defecated on their property as well.
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And, you know, it just...
They're talking, there's talk of a protest in March, on March 21st.
March 21st.
They're coming for my birthday. That they, like in the 2,000 range.
Mhm.
And just imagine Governor Hunt Road and with 2,000 people, and it'll be ugly if it's not basically controlled.
If we have a parade permit, then are they getting one? Do we know that? Or
I'm guessing.
Not all of them are.
well, then
Some
they
people
need
are.
to be issued right out of town then.
If they're not getting a parade permit, we had a parade permit with teeth in it, then they could be fined for coming in here without a
All
parade
right, then
permit.
let's-
If they're getting a parade permit, then it would be up to the select board and
Yes.
the police department
And the
as to
police
whether or
department.
not we give them a parade permit.
Yes.
We don't have to give anybody a parade permit.
Yeah.
We don't
They-
have to. If we're concerned about the safety and the welfare of the people in this town,
Yep.
our responsibility is the safety and the welfare of people in this town.
The interesting thing would be is if you had issue a parade permit and it's got, you know,
Timelines.
timelines and the limitations as far as what's okay, not going on private property.
Not parking in the school parking lot.
Well, that has to be basically.
School board's already not going to let them.
Well, no, by a sign there is by permit only.
Yep.
That if you turn around and you say all of that, but then, this is the interesting thing with Richard, is whether or not that you can then say is that not following that there's a fine per person, and that fine would then cover pretty much the administrative costs as far as the processing and whatnot. You know, right now is that unfortunately that there has been a decision made to not prosecute on the purpose of the people that the protests are against. Unfortunately, that doesn't take into account all the rest of the people that are affected by that.
That's right.
Right. I will talk to Mr. Coutant tomorrow.
I'm going to get a copy of the parade permit. I want
Yeah,
to-
somebody needs to email
I've
me
asked for
that.
a copy of that for...
You know what it is?
Is that
No.
out? Do you guys have an application?
That's why I didn't think there was
for that?
one, because I've asked for it for like 10 years now.
I have it.
No.
In Brattleboro, there's an application that you fill out, and it has to go before the select board.
Right,
And
and-
it goes in conjunction, the police chief has to sign off on it.
Absolutely.
Highway department has to sign off on
I'm
it.
aware of that. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I
That's
want to
what
see our
you just-
town
Fire
do.
department has to,
Yeah.
all of those, and it's,
I'm aware of that.
Can you
Yeah.
get us a copy? You be in the office tomorrow? Or
I
sometime this week?
had a copy of the Brattleboro one.
Well, can you give us a
Have
co-
ours.
Oh, you do? Well, can you
Let's get
email us
both
a
of them,
copy?
and I can
We can
shoot them
just-
both to Richard.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
Is there anything else?
Ordinance is online, right?
yeah,
Yes.
it is.
No.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any discussion? The next meeting will be on the 17th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Chris, thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
It